And we finish in National 2 West then, where in round five we were treated to some absolutely brilliant action where late winning moments seemed to be the order of the day. And over at Hinckley, they were able to get their first victory of the campaign. They beat Clifton 32-26. And it's a really nice story, this one. 18-year-old debutant Riley Gilbert going over for the decisive try heading into the final 10 minutes to help his side get their first victory of this season. There was late drama over at Camborne, and Hornets had their hearts broken with the Cherry and White snatching a 30-27 victory thanks to a penalty try 5 minutes from the end. And the late drama continued at Scotland Lane, where Casey Pike's last-minute try secured Old Redcliffians a thrilling 45-40 victory against Redruth. This was another brilliant advert for National League Rugby, but it also means that Old Reds have now got a full year unbeaten at home. It's 13 straight wins for the club, and it's an excellent achievement for Dan Cox and Craig Owens' side. So really good stuff from Old Redcliffians, really good stuff from Luctonians as well, who were dominant in round five. They wore their orange shirt last week for their annual charity day, and they marked it with a 9-try, 66-5 victory over Macclesfield. And it means, as we bring up the table now, that Luctonians are the outright leaders in National 2 West. They are the only team to have won all 5 games after Bourneville ended Loughborough Students' unbeaten start last time out with a 43-24 win. So Luctonians now the only unbeaten side in the division. At the bottom, after Hinckley's win, Devonport remain as the only team without a win. They did manage a bonus point at Cinderford in last week's 44-26 defeat, though Devonport boss Ben Russell was really pleased about that. They've been hit by so many injuries so far this season and only trailed 22-19 at half-time. So, some positives still to take for Devonport services heading in to round 6. And for round 6, our feature club this week is Loughborough Students in National 2 West. It's been a great start to the season for the Midlands club. We just saw the table there with them sitting in second place, and they take on Exeter University on Saturday. Now, this is always quite a unique fixture in National League Rugby because both institutions are quite different compared to the rest of the other clubs at levels 3 and 4 because their player pool is very, very student based. It means the player turnover is likely to be more frequent, so squads are changing all the time. But both institutions, both Loughborough and Exeter, have commitments in University Rugby's top tier competition, which is BUCS Super Rugby. Now, for those who don't know, Exeter won the league title last year, but Loughborough won the championship title, the big prize at the end of the season. So there's a little bit of a rivalry bubbling there, but it does show that both Loughborough and Exeter have to split their commitments between BUCS Super Rugby and National League Rugby, which is why we wanted to catch up with Loughborough head of rugby, Martin Webdale, to talk about that balancing act between a Wednesday afternoon and a Saturday afternoon, and also about the excellent start to the season Loughborough have had.
Oh, look, we're absolutely delighted with the start we've made. As ever with us as a rugby club, we have a high transition of players year in, year out. So I think the start that we've made to the season is testament to the players' hard work in that off-season and pre-season, the integration of a number of new players coming into our squad as 18-year-olds has been brilliant, and that's testament to the results that we've achieved on the pitch so far. In general, we probably lose around about 40% of our squad each year would graduate, and similar to that this year. And I think that's testament. A number of those guys have graduated, have moved to different National League clubs throughout the country. So it's always lovely to see and play against those guys. Like, for example, first league game of the season against Taunton. There was a couple of guys in that squad, and a number of guys in all the National 2 leagues as well as National 1. But that high turnover of players, it happens to us regularly each year. And what's great about that is bringing through that new blood, identifying and seeing those guys put out on the pitch and really develop in front of your eyes very, very quickly. Because the great thing about us playing in National League Rugby is that sort of huge development curve that's able to afford those players, whether that's coming up and probably playing adult rugby for the first time for the vast majority of those players, and the sort of challenges that brings without a shadow of a doubt. So to see in front of your eyes those players growing and developing week on week is a real pleasing aspect of it. Now, guys will play across both BUCS Super Rugby and National League Two West across the season. So to have that diet of different rugby opportunities is great for us as a rugby program. We will run our performance squad, which is sort of our top 65 players within our rugby club, and they will train together. They won't train as a separate BUCS Super Rugby and National League squad. They will train together throughout the time. So that's really important to us that the players then experience that crossover throughout the season.
I know you from through BUCS Super Rugby, really, and obviously I know how much you guys wanted to win that league title last season. So is there you don't have to answer this, I might be putting you on the spot a bit, but is there kind of a split between how much emphasis goes on the Wednesday BUCS Super Rugby and the Saturday of National League Rugby, or is it straight down the middle, 50-50, and you want to do as well as you can in both competitions?
Yeah, no, like absolutely fine. Good question to ask, and we want to do as well as we can in both competitions, and achieving that balance is really important from us as a rugby program. Look, we the National League Rugby is a huge part of our program. We have been in National League One in the past. We find ourselves in National League Two West at the moment, having been in National Two North as well. And and look, it's a huge part of us as a rugby program. It's not secondary to BUCS Super Rugby or anything like that. It's a huge part of our program, being able to play and have two first teams out on a weekly basis. We will at times certainly put a stronger squad out in BUCS Super Rugby because of the nature of that competition, without a shadow of a doubt. But across the season, as I said, a lot of our players will cross over and play both National League Rugby and BUCS Super Rugby throughout the seasons. In a prior life, I coached up at Hull in National Two North, and I really appreciate what National League Rugby is all about. Like, it's the third and fourth tiers of English rugby, and it's the lifeblood of the game. So for me, it's a huge part of it. We want to do as well as we can. We pay a huge respect to the league. The league is massively competitive week in, week out. With the two clubs coming down from National One last season, it's certainly made National Two West stronger, I think, as a league this season, which makes it great for us. And it's brilliant the guys going down to Red Ruth, for example, and experiencing the hospitality down there off the pitch and Hellfire Corner on the pitch, getting those sort of experiences that you don't get anywhere else. Coming out of a lot of those guys coming out of schoolboy rugby, and then moving into their first experiences of the adult game. It's absolutely brilliant, whether that's, as I said, Red Ruth away or Luctonians with all their supporters banging the boards around the side. It's brilliant, and you get to go and visit, see different grounds, see different experiences, and it's a great sort of growing up process for the players, as opposed to what their sort of diet of rugby, whether that's been schoolboy, potentially academy league rugby, that kind of thing before coming to us at Loughborough.
But we might contradict ourselves a little bit, because obviously you are playing Exeter University this weekend, the team that you know well, obviously playing in the BUCS competition and in National 2 West. I know you've already played them in the BUCS season, but that was probably two very different sides to what we might see on Saturday. So just tell us a little bit about that rivalry, because it's kind of bubbled along very nicely from a university perspective over the last couple of years, with you guys winning the title in brilliant fashion last year in terms of BUCS Super Rugby. But it just seems to be a really nice rivalry which is building between two of the university sides in National League Rugby.
Yeah, completely right. Look, Exeter run a fantastic program, really well led by Gareth and his group of coaches down there. Look, it's a really good one. It's a really good rivalry in that respect. It's kind of probably accelerated, I'd say, since post-COVID with Exeter moving up into the national leagues, and for the last couple of seasons, ourselves and Exeter sort of finishing first and second in BUCS Super Rugby. So in 22-23, we managed to win the BUCS Super Rugby League, and they won the cup final in extra time. And then that flipped over last season with Exeter winning the league and us winning the cup final. So by its nature, it's probably accelerated that competitive element of it. And as a group of coaches, a group of staff, we get on really well off the field, which is nice, and you exchange stories and that kind of thing up and down the league. On the pitch is certainly full-blooded. The beauty of it is as well, a lot of the players know each other, whether they've been to the same schools or played at the same clubs before coming their separate ways to university as well. So it's really nice to see that sort of rivalry on the pitch, but that friendship off the pitch in that respect, because they've grown up together and had multiple different experiences together. So look, it's a really nice thing to see, certainly off the pitch, but it's certainly full-blooded on the pitch.
So many thanks to Martin for his time there. It sounds like Loughborough are doing a great job at balancing those university rugby duties with the National League rugby commitments, and it's something they'll be looking to sustain throughout the course of the campaign. And it should be a really lively crowd down at Loughborough on Saturday with them playing Exeter. You heard from Martin there that the rivalry is a nice rivalry, but it also is very much blood and thunder for 80 minutes when the teams meet. So it should be a great atmosphere. And in fact, at Loughborough's last university rugby game against Bath, they had over 2,500 people in attendance. So why not experience that kind of atmosphere on Saturday afternoon and see some of the best talent in the country, because both Loughborough and Exeter University are stacked with really promising players. And, you know, in the past, some of these lads who have played for both institutions have gone on to bigger and better things. They've played in Premiership rugby, they've played for England as well. So it's a pathway which is certainly a fruitful one at the moment, and Loughborough and Exeter University are very much at the heart of that. And also, just a side note, Loughborough have asked me to give their next BUCS Super Rugby game a bit of a shout out. That's on October the 23rd against Hartpury. It's free entry, so another opportunity to get yourselves down to Loughborough to experience the atmosphere, experience what Loughborough is all about, but very much begin that process by heading to Loughborough this weekend, because it's sure to be a brilliant contest against Exeter University and the latest episode in their simmering rivalry. So let's have a look at the rest of the fixtures then in round 6 for this weekend. Camborne versus Hinckley, as we said at the top of the National 2 West chat. Camborne breaking the hearts of Hornets with that late win last week. They're back at home this week to take on a Hinckley side who will head to Cornwall in better spirits after picking up their first win in round 5. Devonport Services take on Clifton. Devonport, despite no win so far this term, are collecting positives along the way in National 2 West. They take on a Clifton side who have lost their last 3 matches. So is there an opportunity for Devonport to maybe capitalise on Clifton's downturn in form, or will the Lavender and Blacks respond in round 6? Hornets versus Bourneville. Hornets, as we mentioned, left Camborne last week with 2 points rather than 5. So can they turn what would have been a disappointing result into a positive result on Saturday when they take on Bourneville, who currently sit in 5th place? Loughborough Students versus Exeter University, we have focused on. Macclesfield host Cinderford at Priory Park. Cinderford will arrive in Cheshire after picking up 3 straight wins, so it's they're in a good moment, a good place at the moment. Are Cinderford. Red Roof entertain tabletoppers Luctonians. Red Roof so close to defeating Old Redcliffians last time out, but just saw a 9-point lead slip away from them late on. Can they now bounce back against Luctonians? But Luctonians, as we know, 5 straight wins. The early table toppers will be a tough nut to crack. And finally, Taunton Titans, who've now won 3 of the last 4 games after beating Exeter University 42-21 in round 5. They take on Old Redcliffians at Veritas Park.